All right, hello everyone, it's silverkyle, and today I'm going to be reviewing Salem's Lot, which I finished just in time for Halloween, which was perfect for October. It's exactly what I was looking for. And this is the second novel by Stephen King. It's also the second novel that I've read from him. So I started with his first one, Carrie, last year. Very much enjoyed it. I will say that I like Salem's Lot more, not only just for the story, but also the way both books were written. There's a lot of similarities, definitely, with character work and kind of what's going on. Arguably, the genre, we'll say, is about the same. But Carrie was written with like essentially two chapters and an epilogue. There's definitely places where you can kind of see that this is where you could kind of put your bookmark and continue on afterwards. But it's really part one, part two, and an epilogue, no chapters. And it's also told through the people that were there for the event that happens in Carrie, along with reports about it, newspaper clippings, different forms of finding out what happened in Carrie, which worked perfect for Carrie. But this is definitely more of a traditional book where you definitely have chapters. You're following one main character along with being introduced to a bunch of other people, which was perfect for this. And I'll get into that in a second. But yeah, Salem's Lot, I will say I definitely enjoyed it a little bit more. Now, for this review, I will not be going to any major spoilers until the very end. I'll have a non-spoiler review, only talking about generally what's on the flap here. And then we'll get into spoilers because I think that there's a lot of people that know what kind of happens in Salem's Lot. But for those of you that don't, I won't be spoiling anything. So the story here is that we have Ben Mears, and I might be mispronouncing names here, but he shows up to Salem's Lot after having resided there when he was a child, and something traumatic happened when he was a child in Salem's Lot. And it's been eating at him ever since, so he returns to Salem's Lot to challenge his fears and also write a new novel. Now, what the best part of this book, other than maybe what we're dealing with in this story, is the character work. Because Stephen King not only shows you what kind of character Ben is, but he takes the time, especially throughout the entire novel, honestly, to introduce you to so many different characters in this small town. You get the doctor, you get a principal, you get some students at the school, and the teenagers are like they're 10, 12, 13-year-olds, and I cared for them, which is in and of itself extremely surprising because I generally hate listening to kids in stories. I just find them extremely boring and dull, and King made me actually care for them. And not only did he do that, but he did a comparison between what adults think and what children think, or teenagers, and I very much enjoy that, especially for this story. That was really well done. We get introduced to a sheriff. We get introduced to the owners of the motel that Ben is living at. We get introduced to a female lead, her parents, what their thoughts are. We get introduced to a priest. We get introduced to so many different characters. There's even a person that works at a dump. We get introduced to some movers. There's a lot of different characters here, and they all are unique and different, and you can tell the difference in intelligence between all of them by what they say, by what King is explaining. It's incredible. It's perfect. He understands his characters and how they act and interact with this world that makes it feel alive, that it comes to life. You feel that Salem's Lot is real. It's excellent. It's always what I've heard about Stephen King, but I never took the chance to really read any of his novels until just recently, and I'm so hooked and love it. So the first act of this novel is a slow build where you get introduced to Ben and a lot of other characters. And King gives you a few tidbits here and there of something that happens. There's something that happens to two brothers at one point in time. There's two movers. So in the first act, you're kind of just given a little bit of what's going on with the main story that is creepy, and there's stuff going on in Salem's Lot, but you have no idea. Nobody really knows what's going on until it slowly gets revealed in the second act. The second act is more revelations, things start really happening, and the main characters start understanding what's going on. And then the third act is just explosive with tons of stuff going on. Very much enjoyed it. But it's that first act that really builds everything. It's a slow build, a slow burn. If you're not into that, I still think give this a chance because King makes it interesting. He makes it relevant to everything that he's showing you. There's a point to it as you go along, especially for Salem's Lot. So I'll give this a 4 out of 5 stars. I would say it's probably one of the better books that I've read for this year. And I can't wait to dive more into other books afterwards. I'm currently reading Billy Summers from him. I wanted to go in chronological order, but one of my friends wanted to read Billy Summers, so I'm diving into that. Very much enjoying it too. But this is awesome if you liked Carrie, or if you like thriller, mystery, horror novels. This is definitely something I would recommend. It's perfect for the month of October, so if you want to wait, you can wait till next year for Halloween. Very much dug this. Character work is excellent. Now, I will be going into spoilers so for those of you that haven't read this and have no idea what's going on, turn off right now, because this involves vampires. And I loved it. That was so perfect. I knew that it involved vampires before, which was kind of unfortunate, because I really do think that if you go into this not knowing that it's vampires that are going to start showing up, I could have, like, you start to get an idea, obviously, but at the very beginning, I would have been like, something creepy is going on. I have no idea what it is. And I would have enjoyed it so much more. It was a blast still reading it, knowing that vampires were going to show up and trying to figure out what was going to happen. Now, in terms of the characters, the way that King talks about the adults looking at things, and what this book is that there's a few characters, Ben, the doctor, the principal, Matt, they all kind of understand that there's vampires in town. And they're like, do we believe that this is what is actually happening? Or are we going crazy? Or are we just thinking things? And it's one character, Matt, trying to get everybody else to start understanding what's going on and persuading them and being like, yeah, this is actually what's going on. And at the time, you're like, is it actually vampires? Or is Matt going insane? Or is he part of it? Are they just trying to make it look like it's vampires? Because I wasn't 100% certain. And I liked that aspect, that that King didn't just say, okay, this is exactly what's going on, and everybody kind of just goes along with it. No, a lot of the adults are all like, no, this isn't happening. But I think the 12 or 13-year-old, and I can't remember what his name is, and he's a big part of the book too, and I don't remember is it Mark? I believe it's Mark. Mark Petrie. I can't remember what his last name is. He just believes it from the beginning, and he just goes along with everything. He's like, yeah, this is vampires. That's it. He just believes it because he's seen it, and that's enough for him. But adults, because we think so much, that we've experienced so much, and we don't believe in things that have never existed during our time that we've been alive, we were very skeptical of it. Whereas a kid just believe, okay, I've seen it. Yeah, that's what that is. They don't second guess it at all. I really liked that aspect. Obviously, near the end, as the vampires are starting to turn everybody, I was kind of expecting, I think, a big battle at nighttime with the remaining humans against all the vampires, and we didn't get that. And I thought that that's what the book was leaning towards, but it's not. It still worked out, but it was kind of like, okay, they're going to go kill the main vampire, and that's kind of it. And then eventually they come back and they decide that, okay, we're going to burn the town and get them all out of their holes, and then we'll go for them. And it's just Mark and Ben that are pretty much alive. There's a few other characters that I think left town that survived, like the sheriff. But for the most part, everybody has been turned. Which is crazy, is that I think that if the town did turn completely into all vampires, we should have had a little bit more about what's going on. And I think that there's even more room to kind of explore this, because the vampire has been around for, like, he's been around, the main vampire, and I can't remember what his name is. Straker, I think, is the human. What's the main vampire's name? Anyway, he's been around since before Jesus Christ. And so he's been around for like thousands of years. And it would have been interesting to see what happens with these towns. Like, it implies that this has happened before, because they talk about other ghost towns. But does that mean in those ghost towns that if you went inside, you would eventually find vampires in all those houses and they come out at night? That seems weird to me. I thought they were just going to turn a few people. And that's something that I think that would be interesting to kind of explore. What happens to these towns if somebody doesn't go back and kill them, like Ben and Mark are going to do, where they're just going to kill basically every vampire so they're not around anymore. Where this has happened before, if the vampires stay in those towns, you should be able to find a bunch of vampires in these ghost towns. That's something, and I don't know if Stephen King ever returns to potentially going back to something like this. I don't think he does. I've never really heard about that, but granted, he might. Either way, awesome book. Definitely recommend it. And yeah, for those of you that have read it, if you have any theories, or if you read anything about what you think about what happens in Salem, the Salem's Lot world, It seems weird. There should be a lot more vampires in existence. Like every time that he goes to these towns and he does this, because he's been around for so long, there should be like thousands of vampires everywhere. It seems very odd. Yeah, just something interesting that I thought about. So anyway, that's it. So you've all been bearded in. Thank you all for watching, and we'll talk to you next time. Beardage.